Hello, so we have gone through the entire theory of launches, which is that you need to put yourself out there, you need to be willing to constantly improve, and you need to get the emotional validation as well as the product validation that your idea is actually useful, it's actually helping people, and it's actually being communicated in the right way. What I would argue is that all of those are separate launches. You can launch a blog post to validate that a market is there or that people understand your problem. You can launch a YouTube video to explain different solutions to the problem that are out there. You can launch a prototype to make sure that the way you're thinking about approaching the problem is the right direction. And you can launch a early release paid sign up form in order to validate that there's market demand there. Now, when all of these mini launches come together, they can come together into a complete launch that has the headline that you know will resonate with your audience, and that has the blog post that explains that there are other solutions, but here's why they're not as good. And it has the onboarding that was validated by your prototype about how people understand your product and how to use it. And then it has the product that people can't live without, that you realize after improving it time and time again, once you got to a certain point, people said, I need this, I want to pay for it, please let me use this regularly, let me have these features and I will pay you, right? And they're willing to pay you, and so now you have a complete product. You have something that works all together. But you don't actually know any of that. You don't start getting the feedback on that to develop all of those different pieces of the launch, of the big launch, until you do these smaller launches and you start putting yourself out there with blog posts and Twitter posts and prototypes and little demos, right? Just things that are going to help your audience make sense of what you're doing. For me, I didn't actually understand why I'm building until I started building, and I knew I had the impulse to build, and I had the impulse to create the certain solutions that I was creating. But it was only in the middle of doing it that I realized, oh yeah, I really feel strongly about these certain things. And for me, it's that the web itself should be a canvas, right? Anyone should be able to edit the web and put their ideas out there. That's my why, right? But I mean, your why could be very similar or very different, but you're not going to actually understand it until you start getting feedback from people and until you start seeing what you're passionate about doing, right? And you're only going to get there by actually putting stuff out there and seeing what you're willing to be vulnerable about, right? Because that's the kind of openness, right, to the world. We expose ourselves in that vulnerability, and we're only willing to do those things for things that we really believe in. And the other thing I learned is that the faster I'm able to create and actually launch something and put it out there, the faster I'm able to iterate, right? And so there's this huge buildup that happens when you don't launch something for a while that says, oh man, it took so long to make this thing and to launch it and to make it perfect. So I can't iterate on it. I can't make a new version because if I make a new version, that's going to take another year, right? So I need to make this version perfect. But if you're able to release something in a few weeks instead of a few months or a few years, that launch feedback cycle gets a lot easier. And you're able to say, okay, well, I created that in a couple of weeks, so I can iterate, right? I can put this out there, I can test it, I can get feedback, and I have the energy remaining to put something new out there, right? And that excellence that you see in like really good products, that's what they did is they had that energy to keep going and to keep improving and to respond to customer feedback constantly until they had something excellent. And then even beyond that, to keep improving it and to keep updated with their customer demands and with the market demands, right? And to not burn out because they're constantly putting something out there and they're constantly getting feedback, and that's nurturing their own motivation. And then the last thing I want to say is just that the human emotional system is meant to process things in the whole picture and in a constant feedback cycle. So if you just think about hanging out with friends and you think about talking with people in your day-to-day life, you're getting the constant feedback of their emotions, of their facial expressions, of them saying good job or good work or I don't really like that. You're getting that constantly in a real-time manner, right? And so the closer you can get to that real-time feedback, the more fulfilled you're going to be as a human being emotionally. And also being able to see the full process of this customer or this potential customer went from not knowing us at all to getting an idea of us, to starting to trust us, to using some of our suggested solutions, to eventually trying out our prototype and our product and giving us feedback, and then eventually buying in. And once you're able to see that full process, it's so much more meaningful to you that you're able to create this difference in people's lives and you're able to affect them in such a strong way. And when you only see a very small part of your effect on the world, right, when you're only doing design and you're only seeing people interact with that one little design, you're not seeing the full picture. You're not seeing the big difference that you're making on the world. And it's important to see that big difference in order to keep you motivated as a human being and to make you believe that you're working on something together with other human beings in your company that's helping people, that's making a real difference. And that's so important to keeping you fulfilled and keeping you motivated. Okay, so I know I said that was the last thing, but I actually just want to go through the ideal launch process, what you need to launch, and what is a launch very, very quickly. So the ideal launch process depends on where you are, what stage you are at as a company. If you haven't validated demand yet, you want to release a prototype. If you haven't even gotten an idea of the market yet, just release a blog post, right? Talking about the idea and talking about your proposed solution. If people resonate with that solution, they're going to comment on your blog post, they're going to reshare it, they're going to ask you when you have a product coming out, right? And that's when you can start building your prototype, right? So it depends on your level, on your stage. And all of those pieces of content that you're creating over the period of a startup's development is going to feed back into the final launch, right? None of it's going to go to waste. And what do you need to launch? Really, all you need to launch, and I'm being honest here, is a headline, right? Something that explains the idea. A headline, a short description that describes a transition, right? Or a transformation from, I'm going to take you from this place to this place, and an image or a piece of media like a video. That's all you really need. And if that resonates with your audience, you can take it a step further. But all you really need is like a simple 5-minute video or a simple image that explains how to get from point A to point B and a headline that captures your audience's attention. And if you can launch with that alone and you get a lot of positive feedback, now you know the headline and the description to use for your actual product. But if you launch with that over and over and over and over again, and you're getting no traction and you're getting no feedback, then you need to test the front end of your front end, right? You need to test that marketing and that messaging in order to improve it, in order to get to the next stage of your launch, right? And yeah, that's pretty much sums it up. And then you can combine that all into one big launch. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.